Exactly.
almost succeeded.
That is, so yoga nidra is the most accessible form of meditation. And so the thing is, with yoga generally, people think of yoga and they think of these poses and people bending them into all sorts of, but that's just one aspect of it. So there's 8 different parts to yoga.
Yes. Okay. Imogen, welcome to my podcast. I spoke to you last week, and this is called Minding My Business. And I speak to random people. I speak about what they do. I like to know stuff, and this is again me here trying to know stuff about you, from you, a lot of things. So, welcome to my show, Imogen, and thank you for taking out time. 10 o'clock in the morning, your part of the world. And so today, what we are gonna discuss is I will not keep you for long. I don't like to again bore my audience. So 20 to 30 minutes, simple discussions. I want to go through what do you understand by self care, your definition of how do you build confidence, exploring motivation, and then probably the last segment which I would like to discuss about is the significance, which often I think now people have started realizing, but I would like to discuss the significance of yoga in our lives.
Yeah, that's a good meaty discussion to get into. What would you like to focus on first?
Yes.
What would you like to focus on first?
So I would like to actually start from self-care and building self-confidence. So I would like to first know your thoughts and what do you actually define self-care as first, and how do you go about, what is your take in, like, having, when I say I am doing something about my self-care, when someone says this, what does he or she mean, so I would like to know your thoughts on this. What is this about from your point of view?
Yeah, so I think for me, self-care is about listening to what you really need and acting on it. So I think for a lot of us, our mind is really busy and it goes chat, 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 and it tells us, oh, you need to be doing all the time, and like just constantly like on the go. And then that makes it hard sometimes to listen to a little quieter voice that I call like your intuition or your wise mind, or kind of the part of you that is maybe a bit more timeless and a bit more like it's less bothered, it's kind of like, it's fine, nothing matters, you can slow down, you can chill out. So I think of self-care as when people have had a little nudge from that part of themselves and they think, oh, okay, hang on, I need to do this thing, and it will look completely different for different people. So yoga is not going to be for everyone. For some people it might be going for a walk, going for a run, having a chat with a friend, taking a day off work, like maybe they need to just pause for a moment. It can be different on different days for different people, but I do think that it's part of sort of really listening to what you need rather than what you want. Sometimes what you want to do and what you need to do are a bit like
I mean, a lot of times, what we want comes in between of what we need, and what we want is not actually what we need.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was a very nice sentence to say. But yes, this is something which I would like to know from you also. How did you go about to, discover all this, and just to go back, probably how did you, when did it start for you? When did you actually realize that, okay, this is something which now, because of course, when you are here, you are able to give tips to someone, probably you would have gone through yourself, back in time. So I would like to know, how did it all start from your end? How did the self-care in your life, how did it begin?
Yeah. So I think the first time I actually got introduced to yoga was when I was at university. My friends started teaching a class there. And at university, I was like socializing a lot. I was drinking a lot of alcohol. I was really busy working. So I was kind of burning the candle at both ends quite a lot. And before I went to university, I'd kind of gone through a bit of a breakup, and it was a little bit messy. So I was quite heartbroken. I was in quite like a low mood. And I just found when I went to yoga, there was something about it that helped me to feel really calm. So I did it not as regularly as now, but I kind of, that was like my introduction to it. And then when I came back to my hometown, sort of in the holidays, sometimes I'd go to a yoga studio there. But that was really just like the first process. I kind of had to reach rock bottom, I think, before I was like, okay, I need to start looking at this. And sometimes you'll have to reach that point. For me, I had to reach that point a couple of times and really feel like
you reach that point to hit rock bottom before you probably discover yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that, the poet Rumi has a quote that says, the wound is the place where the light enters. So sometimes people will find that like in their darkest moment, when it's been like the worst thing that's happened, that's when the wisdom will come and be like, okay, something needs to change. What is it? I'm ready.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So it was probably then when you started exploring yoga as well, or was it like was it all together, or yoga was a process of yoga was an outcome of, what do you say, yoga was the byproduct of, when you start this process of self-care, yoga is a byproduct, like it just comes along.
It was very gradual. So I think that was sort of my first taste of it. And then I still definitely wasn't done, like basically not taking care of myself. I was like carried on with partying loads. I go to festivals and get, drinking and doing drugs and all these things. And there's nothing, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I've worked with people who use drugs, and I have friends, and it's,
yes, of course, yeah.
But it was just the way that I was doing it. It was really damaging my health and my mental health. So for me, it wasn't good. But then over time, when I finished university, and then I like went straight into work, and I was kind of like work. And then I started going to a regular yoga class. And then over time, I found that was giving me more energy. It was making me sort of pause a little bit more and kind of get these, I kind of think of it almost as like downloads of like moments when you're like, oh, okay, that's what I need to do next. And it started to make me feel, because I felt stronger in my body as well, I felt more confident to make different decisions and start kind of taking a bit more ownership of like my life, basically, because I tend to be quite like, I want to please other people all the time. And this is like what lots of us want to do, right?
I mean, this requires a lot of courage also from the person doing it, because often, to acknowledge what's going wrong, again, it requires a lot of courage. And again, to point finger at yourself, and say that, dude, this is not the way. I think this is something which, again, I often, when people come out and say that, when they say that I have been through this, and, when people share the story, I always feel like, how were they able to, firstly, realize that this was a problem, acknowledging that problem first. Okay, you shouldn't call it a problem also. I don't think you should call it a problem. Acknowledging that thing, and then taking care of it, taking care of it.
Exactly. And I like that you said,
I mean,
you said about it not being a problem. I think that's really important, the words that we use, because sometimes it's just something that was working for you for a while is now not working.
Yeah. So it's a wrong choice of word though, but what I wanted to say is acknowledging what you're going through, and then working through it. Probably, different people will have different processes, but I think more or less, I can relate to you also, more or less. I have spoken to a lot of people. I mean, what you are saying as well, I mean, there's no correct path at the end of the day. There is no correct path, but yeah, I mean, there are few roads which are common, which you must take. I think, yeah, I mean, this is where yoga, and probably again something which I believe which is not taken seriously is called meditation, which is something which which I have done very less. But the times when I have done, I personally feel it actually cleanses your, the exercise which you gave for sleeping. I would actually call it a sleep meditation, because
Yeah.
that is again, that's something which, if you are able to delete everything for 20 minutes from your head, you
Yes.
have almost done the job. You have
Exactly. In
almost
fact,
succeeded.
that is, so yoga nidra is the most accessible form of meditation. And so the thing is, with yoga generally, people think of yoga and they think of these poses and people bending them into all sorts of,
Yes.
but that's just one aspect of it. So there's 8 different parts to yoga, and meditation is one of like the key ones. And actually the poses were actually just created originally to get you ready to sit for meditation. So yeah, sometimes people think, oh no, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible, but actually like that's actually
You
a very
need to be, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I think, otherwise, I mean, like most of the people in the world, there was this survey, and most of the people in the world, as per that particular survey, they considered the people as unfit. So, you can't say that people who are fat or big or, obese, I think they'll have to figure out their own way about how they do it.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong, but yes, I agree that, you don't have to be flexible enough to do yoga. I mean, it will flex eventually. It will
But it's
flex.
all up here really.
Yeah.
But it's all connected. So and a key part as well of yoga is the breath. So that is like massive. The breath is basically the bridge between the body and the mind, which I don't like separating the two because I think they are all interconnected. But when you bring attention to your breath and you learn techniques of how to change it, you can really shift like your state. You can really calm yourself down. You can energize yourself if you need to energize yourself as well. So yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. And in fact, a lot of the clients that I work with, then breath practice is like a big shift for them, massive. But a lot of the time it is just finding whatever it is that helps you slow down, quiet down the mind so that you can get some clarity and kind of feel less like
And do you like? I mean, do you also feel surprised when you see the lack of? Okay, not now. Probably it was there a few years back. Do you feel surprised when there is a lack of awareness still? I don't think yet, but lack of awareness in general population regarding yoga yet. I mean, I think it is time. Yeah, people have now started doing it all over the world. I mean, again, in the country I come from, yes, we do a lot of yoga, but I still think, people are not getting it as in they are not able to understand the significance what yoga could do. We all know that yoga is good, all that, but people are not deep diving into the fact that that could actually change your life, because it could actually cure diabetes, it could actually reduce it. I'm not saying zero, but it could get your sugar down, it could get your blood pressure down. There are proofs. I mean, there's no medical proof. People have done it, and they have managed to, I mean, lose weight. There is higher concentration, and people have increased stamina. So I mean, do you still think that not many people in the world still are aware about this? Or you think like we have reached much more places than we were before? Yes, of course we have, but what is your take on that?
yeah, I think it's starting to, but well, as far as I can see, in terms of like in England, because it's so hard because there's so many different places and I've only got a limited knowledge really of like where things are doing, what's happening where, because the world in some ways is still big and there's lots of places I don't know about. But in the UK, like if someone goes to the doctor about their mental health, really they're still just offered either talking therapy or prescription medication. And
But
like I haven't
no,
heard of
yeah.
anything alternative being offered yet, really, other than actually, I tell you, like when I was working as a support worker for young people in Bristol, And I took a young person to the GP because she was feeling suicidal. She was feeling quite low mood. And he was great. He was a younger guy. And he said, have you tried these meditation apps? And, you know, he was thinking outside the box and saying, you know, you need to stay active. But the thing is what we don't have is then someone kind of helping that person to stay accountable to that, or kind of that there's no like walking side by side someone whilst they make the changes. They're just kind of like, oh, this is what you need to try. And then there's not much follow up with that.
I have also personally felt, because, you know, when there are cases of mental illness, you know, the person concerned, they are like very normal people. They're doing their job perfectly. Probably they're having a great life as well at home. So, I mean, you're telling me that one tablet will actually cure what cure something which even you cannot see. So that is something, you know, I mean, it could be anyone. Like, so yeah, this is something where you know, yoga and meditation comes in, because, you know, again, you know, a problem which, again, wrong word. If there is something going on in my head, I think it's only me at the end of the day who can sort it out. Yes, there could be assistance from others, but I don't think a tablet will make me think a certain way where I'll feel better. It could make my heartbeat, you know, a little low. It could make, you know, that's it. I think yeah, I mean, I think even now, probably we are I think better now, probably before, but yeah, I mean, treating cases like these need to be done in a different way. I think this is yoga and meditation. I think, you know, this whole family, I call the yoga meditation family, you know, the whole package, you know. I think this is something which I personally feel should be a must, you know, just to start with, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, the person concerned has to himself or herself do that by themselves. You know, it's not something I can do for you. You know, I could just stand with you, but, you know, you'll have to walk your own way. So yeah, I mean, I agree on that part. I mean, there are still, you know, you cannot find, you know, proper diagnosis for this, you know. And I don't think there is any proper diagnosis. Also, there is no proper diagnosis. Again, you know, this is not like you, as you say, it's not a prescribed problem. You know, it's not like, you know,
it's not. It's the wrong question. What people tend to kind of internalize is, oh, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Why do I feel like this? What's wrong with me? But actually, it's more of a case of being curious and kind and thinking, what happened? What happened to me? And actually, it's self-inquiry. And as you said, there's certain things that help you do that. And actually, for some people, you know, prescription medication can be useful for a time, and talking therapy can definitely be useful, but it needs to be a mix of things. Like for me, in my journey, and I think it's ongoing always as a human being, like self-development, then I've done talking therapy, I've done like this voice kind of singing, shouting stuff. I've tried all sorts now. So it's never just one thing, but often there's something that helps you to feel a bit braver and feel more courageous and confident to try those new things, and to kind of feel uncomfortable, because that's it. Mostly we're very uncomfortable with our emotions, and so then we suppress them. And then that's what then leads to us feeling really weighed down and sort of disconnected, because we've kind of shoved everything down somewhere, and are just keeping busy and being like, oh no, later, I'll do that later.
Imogen, I would like to know, what do you mean when you say exploring motivation for self-care? You know, what I would like to know, what do you mean by it? Again, you know, we all know the meaning of the sentence, but I would like to know, you know, what do you mean when, you know, and what is the process, say, you know, which you do yourself? Because again, you can only speak for yourself, of course. You cannot speak for everyone. So I would like to know what you mean and what you do for exploring motivation for self-care, you know, because we're talking about self-care, but at the end of the day, you know, this is something which leads to self-care. You know, this is the road to self-care. So that's why I ask.
Yeah, exactly. And so for me, it's checking in with, because it's really easy to give yourself a list of like, oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And it coming from a real pushing place and being like, oh, well, like you're not gonna have a good day if you haven't done this. And like, I've been through that whole process of having like a big morning routine that I've set up for myself. And then like, if I haven't done it, I'm like, oh no, like it's going to be a terrible day, and got really overly attached to stuff. So your kind of self-care can also go that way, where you get obsessed with it and that it's not healthy. So, but for me, my self-care, I just check in and ask myself, is this coming from a place of love? Like, am I being loving towards myself with like the choice that I'm wanting to make here? Because if it's coming from a place of like, oh, you should do this, or it's coming from that sort of expectation, then I'm going to come into my day feeling pressured and feeling and not actually like the opposite of what self-care should sort of bring for you. So the motivation part for me is being able to show up and kind of almost be for other people, and like in my work and my family, like those interactions, when I've taken the time for myself, my interactions with other people is just completely different. And it's beautiful, and you feel more connected, and you have better conversations, you feel like things kind of evolve and grow more, and you feel kind of just, it sounds very cliche and yoga, but you feel connected with like the universe and everything that's going on. You feel in a state of flow and things just work. Whereas if it's the other way, if I'm doing things like, oh, I need to do this because I should do it, and that's going to make me feel
then
better,
it's not really serving the purpose. I mean,
everything feels heavy then.
Routine. It's just routine. Yes, of course. I mean, again, there's no definition. There's no right way or wrong way. I mean, it is how you do it. So Imogen, of course, I mean, we have been talking about yoga without talking about yoga. So you run, I would like to, because for, again, people who are watching, I would like you to tell us about your 16-week yoga and coaching program, so that probably they could also hit you up. And of
course. Yeah, sure. So my 16-week program that I run with people it's holistic. So there is yoga, there is meditation, there is breath work and journaling as well. We do kind of writing exercises and coaching. So I'm basically there's a step-by-step process, and people will try lots of different things, and I'm there with them to guide them through it. And because 4 months, it basically, if you have a certain way of being or thinking that you've been doing for like over 10 years, it takes at least 12 weeks to make a shift and make a change. So I was like, okay, I want to make sure that
of course. I mean, I'm 30 now. To change everything which I've been doing for the last 30 years, yes. 12 weeks is a minimum. I agree.
Because it's hard. And
stuff
comes up because there's a reason that you've been doing things that way. And then
I've been wanting to do stuff I've been wanting to, there are few stuff which I feel like doing, like, okay, today I'm gonna go and finish my 20,000 steps, or it just doesn't happen every day, like it doesn't. Like, I mean, I try my best. Oh no, I'm not gonna have carbs for this week, and I'm just having carbs the whole week, So I mean, it's hard. It
is hard, and it's about going a little bit deeper and kind of seeing what that's about, and seeing why those decisions are happening and what that means for you. And for everyone, it's completely different. So that's why having someone there with you to really bounce ideas around for 4 months is just absolutely transformational, because we don't have that space that we set aside really to like go deep on that stuff. So if you set that intention of like, right, this is how I want things to be, this is how things are at the moment, and I just would like to have a space where I can explore that and see why those things are the way they are. And what we do in the program is we work through each of the chakras, and each of the chakras has I basically think of it as like a map of like understanding what it is to be human. And we might have certain wounds and certain things that happened in our past that we kind of are holding heavy in certain areas. And through the exploration and self-reflection exercises, that becomes apparent. And then there's also meditations that help you really be with that and allow that part of yourself to be seen and heard, instead of shut away and thought, oh no, that's not good. We'll just ignore that part of myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Imogen, we are coming to an end to our podcast, but before we end it, I would like your last words on how has yoga changed your life? Give me your answer in a few sentences.
Wow. How has it changed my life? I think it's helped me to have faith, and really understand what love means as well, like unconditional love, and feeling like any person on the street is amazing. Like every human out there, and every, there's like this beautiful light in all of us. And if you can recognize it in yourself, you're better able to see it in others. And then when you see it in them, they start to see it in themselves as well. And it's just like, wow, it's amazing.
Yes. And I think a lot of patience as well. I think this is something which, I don't know, people often tell me, which I sort of agree that, I mean, the amount of patience, which again, patience cannot be learned. I think it is a habit which, you either have or you don't have to have it. I think you need to cultivate patience. And I think yoga is something which helps you cultivate that. And Imogen, I think we have kind of come to an end to our podcast. And thank you so much again. Thank you so much for taking out time, your precious morning time. Nobody wants to come in the morning and do a podcast, but thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope you like this half an hour session. And again, on a personal touch, I will talk to you personally. I will just press the stop